Let's get a checkup on the news now with reporter Angela Chung. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning, Sinyan.
Friday. Happy Friday.
Yes. Great expression.
Yes. Oh, I'm so happy that it's Friday. It's going to get hotter on the weekend, but at least it's the weekend and we can do nothing and just
Yes.
stay home all day. I know what I'll be doing this weekend. I'll be watching a lot of the Olympic action.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yes.
I don't know if you're into the Olympics.
I should be.
No, you don't have to be.
I do like watch games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this weekend is when Team Korea is up for some gold medals. The kind of the sectors or the games or the sports that we're very good at, and we have some medal hopefuls. It's happening this weekend, so that's why I'm going to be happy. So the Tokyo Olympic Games, they're actually really happening. Although
know.
until we actually see it, the cauldron being fired up, I don't know if we'll actually be able to believe it. But they are set to begin at 8 p.m. tonight. That's the opening ceremony. After a year's delay, building concerns about COVID-19 infections as well. South Korea, of course, has also sent its delegation to Tokyo to participate in the opening and closing ceremonies. President Moon is not one of them, but let us know about the delegation.
Yeah, so South Korean athletes have been in Tokyo since last week for the Tokyo Olympic Games, and Team Republic of Korea became the 103rd country to march into the Tokyo Olympic Stadium during the opening ceremony, which will begin at 8 p.m. today. The order of entry was selected based on the sequence in the Japanese language and the criteria of the International Olympic Committee, IOC. Greece, in the capacity of the first host country of the Olympic Games, will be the first to march, followed by the refugee Olympic team. And a total of 206 National Olympic committees under the IOC will be participating in the Tokyo Olympic Games, except for North Korea and Guinea.
Now, in these unprecedented times and games, I understand that Team Korea, the size is also a little smaller than usual. How many athletes have actually gone?
Yeah, so the number of South Korean athletes participating in the Tokyo Games has been further reduced from originally 50 athletes to around 30 now.
There's also some controversy about whether athletes will have to wear a mask during their competition. Like I said, this weekend is one of those events where South Korea is hoping to aim for gold, especially with gold medalist Jin Jong-oh in the shooting category. Tell us about the controversy surrounding his competition and whether he'll be wearing a mask.
Sure. So, shooting gold medalist Jin Jong-oh wants to wear a face mask during the Tokyo Olympic Games. The Tokyo Olympic Games, however, does not stipulate all athletes must wear a face mask during the games. So it's up to the athlete's choice whether he or she is going to wear one or not before going to the final match. During the final match, it's mandatory to actually take off the mask, and this is probably for broadcasting purposes. It seems South Korea's National Organizing Committee didn't give Jin Jong-oh accurate guidelines about wearing a mask during the games until recently. So this means Jin Jong-oh has no choice but to having to take it off for the final match, even though he's very used to practicing with his mask on, and he might feel more comfortable with his mask on.
That is a huge inconvenience for Chin, and it's unfortunate that he didn't receive the proper information. I remember seeing some interviews with him, and he had the mask on during those practice sessions in the heat, but he said it makes him, feel more kind of comfortable in his mind because he's also being considerate of the other athletes out there, some of whom weren't wearing their masks. So this could be a huge variable, especially in the most important game, the final match as well. In other shooting matches, has he been wearing a mask?
Yes, so he wore a mask during the domestic match because the Korea Shooting Federation required shooting athletes to wear a face mask during domestic matches.
All right. So once again, it will require even more concentration and a steely mind as well as a steely hand for Chin, but we wish him the best of luck. Let's move on to our second story. There was some controversy a couple of months ago, I remember, when Korean kimchi was translated into Chinese pao chai, which is completely different. And this led to some Chinese, maybe broadcasters, as well as some media outlets saying that kimchi actually derived from pao chai as well. But now there's a new government directive under which kimchi's translation will be made into something different to prevent this from happening again.
Yes, the government revised the directive in question titled Foreign Language Translation Guideline for Public Sector Translation, and the revised version took effect yesterday. The government replaced pao chai with xingqi in Chinese pronunciation in the revised directive after the promotional video of kimchi gained a spotlight a month ago. And this new directive will be applied to websites and promotional materials in the public sector. But for private sector, the revised directive is not mandatory yet. So relevant industries such as kimchi industry and F&B industry can refer to this directive when they need to translate it.
Just kind of wondering, why did the government allow people to translate kimchi to pao chai in the first place? Why not kind of prohibit it or use this shinchi before?
So the ministry has allowed it because pao chai was customarily used as an equivalent of Korean kimchi in translation with an aim of boosting understanding of Chinese people on kimchi. But it has been strongly proposed that we must correct the wrong usage of the word since Korea's ownership of its own culture has been threatened by its neighboring country recently. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs said people will get far less confused between what kimchi and pao chai is now that we clearly distinguish between the two words under the revised government directive.
Let's hope so as well. Moving on to our last item. This is the time, if it was not the pandemic, of course, everyone would be going on summer vacations. When you hear the word summer vacation, what comes to mind for you, Angela?
So for me, actually, the beaches and sparkling rosé wine.
Ooh, very nice. Very nice combination. Yeah, for me, it's very similar as well. Beaches, but maybe not sparkling rosé wine, maybe champagne or just a cool beer, I think. And maybe a parasol as well. Yeah, that's what
Right.
comes to mind. But, a lot of people in Korea do tend to go to the mountains and especially the valleys because there's a bit more shade and the water can be very, very cool. So normally you might think of these scenes where families have their feet in the water or right by the valleys and they're having some chicken, but it's actually illegal.
Right. In Korea, actually, that's been kind of my favorite as well, going to the mountain valleys. But the Seoul City's Special Justice Police plans to crack down on illegal practices of restaurants in mountain valleys starting from the end of July in cooperation with local authorities and Korea National Park Service.
So are all the valleys going to be sort of subject to this crackdown?
So not every valley, a total of 9 valleys so far will be targeted, and they are valleys in Uidong, Mountain Tabong, Pyeogun Valley in Mountain Surak, Baeksasil Valley in Jongno, Gugi Valley and Pyeongchang Valley, Gingorang Valley in Mountain Yongma in Gwangjin, and Sinlim Valley in Gwanak.
These are all in Seoul, right? A lot more than I
Right.
thought.
I know. So the Special Justice Police will mainly regulate restaurants and cafes that set up illegal facilities such as tents, dining tables, and water pools in valley and river areas, and other sites set aside for public use in order to attract customers. These valleys and river areas are actually in development restriction areas, and intensive crackdown operations will be done in Uidong Valley and Samcheonsa Valley of Eunpyeonggu, where there are a lot of restaurants. And Seoul City's Special Justice Police has urged vacationers to report it to responsible local authorities and call the Tasan call center at 120 if they see one of these illegal facilities around mountain valleys and river areas and installations in development restriction areas.
All right. Thank you very much for those updates, Angela. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again on Monday.
Have a great weekend.